Hi guys. I'm hoping you can see me. I'm hoping you can see me today. I'm just doing a really quick live on my YouTube channel, which I haven't done before. I've usually just been uploading the conversations and the discussions that I've been having with a lot of amazing people from all around the world. So I just want to take a couple of moments today just to say hi myself and to explain a little bit about who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and to share my perspective about what's actually happening energetically right now with these jabs that are happening all around the world. This is Blaze coming in to say hello as well. So I've been doing shamanic and yogic and energy healing work for about 25 years now, and I'm what's known as an activator. So my energy and my gifts, my abilities come through me. They are God's source, and I'm privileged to be able to do the work that I do, and to assist people in their process and along their journeys. And that is essentially, I don't like to interfere with anybody's process. It's just the information that comes through me and the skills that I have, on a human level that I've learned in this lifetime that I use in that process. So a little intro for this as well is that whatever I share here today, and as well as with any of the videos that I put up, just like anybody else that's on these platforms, if what I share doesn't resonate with you, then that's totally okay. Just switch off. You don't have to listen to it. I'm not asking you to take it on board. It's totally up to you whether something resonates with you or not. So yeah, we're all moving. We're being all invited. We've got equal opportunities now from the universe to explore and to research and to investigate and to tap into that which makes us unique, and to action our free will. It's a big part of the last couple of years, and all the portals and all the planetary alignments that have been happening. An invitation again from the universe for each one of us to recognize how powerful we actually are, because we have spent lifetimes enslaved in various ways to different degrees through the different experiences that we've individually and also collectively manifested. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today as well, because I've been sitting with this for quite a while. And those of you who've been watching my videos already, and those of you who already know me through my other platforms on Facebook and Instagram, know that I've been very vocal in speaking out about what's been going on with this pathogen from the very beginning, from the very start. And certainly around the sense of enforced jabs and the loss of freedoms, etc. Give me a bud. So this is an extension of that, and also just my theory around what is actually happening. So again, take it or leave it, and it may resonate with you, it may not. But I always like to go back to the absolute beginnings and the foundations of what we base our spiritual practices on, spirituality 101, so to speak. And there's probably about 4 or 5 main tips or main points in that. And one of the first ones is that we are not victims in any way. We have actually chosen to come to this plane and to incarnate. We've ticked a few, boxes to say, yes, I'll have this experience and that one, and I will choose to move through that. And that aligns with certain timings and dates, of course, in our charts. And this is all for our highest good, for our soul to get another opportunity to resolve what it may have brought forth unresolved from a previous incarnation, and to resolve a lot of family stuff as well, because obviously those of us who are a little bit more aware in our families, that is kind of with the planetary ascension energies that are invoking right now, that's kind of part of our role as well if we choose to step into that. And you'll know if that's you as well. I mean, we call ourselves the black sheep of the family, which is a little bit sort of, a negative connotation to it. And I don't like to use the word awake either. I have used it in the past, but now I just choose to use the word aware, because when we are aware of our environment and when we're aware of ourselves, first of all, then we become privy to information and knowledge and teachings that we were not able to see before. So rather than, again, create a sense of further division, which is already rife within the spiritual community, and that's part of our polarity experience as humans here, of course, as well, it doesn't serve us all working towards unity consciousness. So again, everybody's opinion, everyone's belief, everyone's truth is valid. But if we get stuck and stagnate in what we believe to be true in any one moment, then we're limiting our potential for growth and for stepping outside of those boxes and, again, connecting with more of who we actually are and who we've chosen to be on those higher levels. So we can, ideally not come back and do the same shit, different story again in another incarnation. So as far as this pathogen goes, and understanding that as a spiritual being, we have chosen these experiences for our collective and individual good, then there is actually nothing wrong. We all knew at some point things had to shift on the planet. And that is just natural law. When things get to a certain point of negativity or heaviness, density, darkness, whatever you want to attach words to that for, then there's this natural shifting between the yin and the yang. Things need to be expelled and expunged in order to shift and move through to another level of frequency and healing. That is the healing process. It's not all peace, love, and mung beans, as I often say. It's pulling off the band-aids and looking at all the gunk and the pus and the debris that we've packed away underneath, quite often unconsciously, and sometimes consciously too. It's like, I don't want to deal with that. It's too uncomfortable. That is part of the process. That is the healing process. So we need to look into the shadows. We need to look at the things that make us feel uncomfortable and that trigger us, because they are actually gifts. This is all an opportunity to shift our grief into gratitude, or as I often say in my work, our wounding into our medicine. Again, taking things from a denser, heavier experience or awareness to a higher and lighter, more evolved and cohesive experience as well. So when you take yourself from that space and understand that you have chosen to be here at this point in time, regardless of how uncomfortable and frightening and scary it is, because it is, there's a lot of scary shit going on around the planet. I'm not going to deny that. That doesn't make me less spiritual for saying that, nor does it you. It's the reality of the situation. And yet, in this, there are so many wonderful opportunities and also the great gifts already that we've experienced with the whole C-19 situation around the world. It's certainly made people really fully trust that we can connect with each other energetically no matter where we are on the globe. So, remote healing, or if you didn't really sort of believe that you couldn't receive an energy healing or gift from somebody that was not in the same room as you, then certainly a lot of people have understood that is not the case, that energy is, we're sharing, we're breathing all the same air and recycled water, etc., as well as the same frequencies. So that's a gift. Another gift, obviously, which many of you are probably aware of too, is that it's given many people who are on the edge or experiencing already adrenal fatigue, gave them the chance to stop and cocoon and go into their homes and rest. And whilst a lot of us would have been like, oh my God, thank you, needed that time, obviously that would be very confronting for most people too, because they're used to being in that coffee, sugared up state of go, go, go. So for them to step out of that and being forced to step out of that and sit in their homes and stay with their loved ones and be in situations that might be extremely challenging, personally, as well as other dynamics in the family too, that would not have been an easy space for a lot of people to go into. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that is a good space for us to go into, because we need to take ourselves off the treadmill and pause and reflect and look around at and discern, use our discernment to go, well, is this actually working for me? Is this relationship working for me? Is my addiction to needing to be busy all the time, or to starting every day with coffee and a cigarette, or whatever it is for us? We're all moving through different stages of our growth, and detaching from the things that we have become so attached to in order to prop ourselves up and keep going in that machine, in that matrix. So a wonderful gift of like helping people stop. And I don't know about you guys, but it's made it a lot easier for me definitely to connect with my tribe more than ever before as well, because I'm sure like you too, we've lost a lot of friends, and sometimes sadly we've lost or polarized a lot of family members and partners, and there's been a lot of disjointing there, and not even mentioning, of course, people who have actually died from certain pathogens and through suicide, domestic violence, and all those horrendous experiences as well. I'm not making light or dismissing any of that whatsoever, of course. And yet, on that higher spiritual level, everybody, again, has chosen the set of experiences that they have on a soul level to grow. So it's really challenging for us to sit back as a spiritual teacher or practitioner and allow all of that to go on. We can feel compassion, of course, and support one another and others going through their stories when we've had enough expertise and time on our own, studying and learning and embodying that, so we can hold that space. But it's, having an opinion, having a judgment, and using discernment through your own experience are three very different things. And understanding that each one of us needs to move through what we've chosen to move through in this lifetime, and however long that takes it's like saying how long is a ball of string, or in the car trip, are we there yet? Just asking that same question. We're in the moment for as long as we need to be in that experience as well. So another one also with the spiritual beliefs is that, and this is what I want to really sort of focus on today, and again, take it or leave it, is that we can't catch anything from anybody else unless we give permission, or we can't allow somebody else's energy or frequency to influence us or to take us over or possess us, or however you want to look at that, unless we give permission for that to happen. So as a spiritual being, I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with the different layers of your aura, and some people say there's 4 layers, some people say there's 5, some people say there's 7. So whatever modality that works for you and that resonates and that you practice with, just insert that here now. But essentially the general premise is that on your outer layer, on your outer sheath, is your spiritual causal body. That's where all of your imprints and your implants and your samskaras and your journeys and lessons for this lifetime reside. And then the idea is that they filter through the different layers of your being until eventually, if you haven't had or taken notice of the wake-up calls through all those different layers and the astral layers and the mental and the emotional layers, it will land in your etheric body, which is the closest one to your physical, and it will manifest right in your face, in your physical body, like hello, are you ready to work with this now? So if you believe in that construct, that everything is something that, everything that we experience on the physical actually has its origins further away. It's not the opposite. We don't get sick physically in the body and then it works its way out to provide a spiritual lesson. It's a spiritual lesson and imprint that we are working with through the different layers of ourselves to ideally resolve before we need to go into a really chronic expression of something physical. And yet saying that, we also do need to have a physical experience to some degree. Again, that's determined by the individual soul. So we can actually have the opportunity to step up, it's a dog snoring, to step up and find the edge of our truth so we can stay in our power, or choose to stay and stand in our power. So by that premise, you can't actually catch anything from anybody. Everything is frequency. And so many of us are talking about frequency right now, but very few are really fully understanding and embodying and acknowledging what that really means and what's required to really step up and live from that space of going, yeah, everything is frequency. I've got to take myself out of these old paradigms of the mind, the germ theory, or the attachment of like somebody's transmitting or shedding something to me, because it's through frequency. Another thing that a lot of people haven't made the connection with either yet, or spoken about at least publicly that I've seen, is that we understand that there are light and dark forces in the world. Now, good and evil, we don't want to go into the polarities of God and Satan, all the religious connotations, but there is light and there is dark. And darkness is not necessarily all evil. From the perspective of yin and yang, darkness is the yin, it's the feminine, it's the void, it's the mother, it's the nurturing cocoon. There's nothing evil about that, but there is the darkness, which is the opposite to the light of that, from a different perspective that I'm talking about here as well, and that we're seeing rising up out of the depths of our subconscious, our collective subconscious pathways, for it to be resolved, because we've carried it for way too long. As I said at the beginning of this, we all knew at some point something had to break and something had to shift. And we're at a point in a precipice now in this civilization, our culture, the way that we've evolved to now, where we've got enough of us that are aware to these facts and that are able to and embodying their stories and their skills and their chosen gifts to shed light literally on this shadow aspect of our psyches and our souls and our individual and collective selves, so we can shift this. So this is, and it's the difference between synthetic and organic energy as well, because that's, again, another basic foundation of Spirituality 101, is being able to discern the difference between an organic energy or frequency and a synthetic frequency. And essentially what we're seeing now, and have since the whole beginning of this whole C19 thing last year, is the introduction of the trying to manipulate people through the synthetic, and obviously merging us towards a more artificial intelligence synthetic reality, surrendering our organicness, surrendering our sovereignty, and surrendering our sense of individuality as well, which is what we actually need to do to step out of that slave program. So to catch something from somebody else from frequency, it's not so much that we are catching it as in catching a pathogen, because that would mean you'd have to support the germ theory, and I don't. Through the research and the people I've spoken to, I've become aware of that paradigm and who constructed that, and how that has just fed into the certain organisations around the world that have just been producing medicine and medications for too long, and feeding again into also the belief that we're born in sin and that we are also defective in some way as a human. We're not. We are all powerful when we're aligned with Mother Nature, but the whole germ theory thing feeds into that belief that we are lacking in some way and that we need supplements in some way other than what we can draw upon from Mother Earth, the very fabric and the elements that we're made of. So in order to catch something from somebody, if we're dealing with frequency now on so many multiple layers that we are, and knowing that the darkness, as in the occultic forces and the dense, and I'll just use the word evil for the moment, just so, without wanting to pigeonhole things, but just so you get a gist of that. That energy and that frequency is very manipulative, and it doesn't have our best interests at heart, and it plays on all the wounding and the shadow that we still carry in our hearts and in our psyche as well, and in those outer layers of the aura I mentioned before. So that occultic frequency and that global coven, or many global covens of occult people working and participating to create rituals and spellcraft and manipulations on the magical energetic realm to infiltrate the astral and to infiltrate our organic beings and our own individual and collective consciousness, that is very much easily transmitted. Those of you who have done ritual before and who are involved in spellcraft, witchcraft, various degrees of that, conjuring, etc., using that for light, thinking that you're using that for light. If you think that of those who are actually using that energy for darkness, when they create particular rituals, they will be infusing all of these negative pathways, paradigms, and intents into whatever it is that they are conjuring up and trying to create, because they can't actually create anything. They can only conjure and engineer. Only God's source creator can create. So that is a frequency that we are all receptive to, because we are all energetic beings and we are all breathing in the same air and drinking the same water, all recycled, and we're all bouncing off one another energetically as well. We're all in the same, different bandwidths, but we're all energetic beings, as many of you know and understand. So, and we're naturally empathic. I believe that most of humanity are beautiful, compassionate, loving souls. That's our true nature. Again, we've been conditioned. There's always going to be a few bad eggs in the box, of course, but we know that the world is run by a very small group of crazy psychopaths, of course, but in general, the average human is a loving, compassionate, caring being, and that's in our nature. So we feel one another when we're feeling sick or when we're feeling sad or not, you can just sense and intuit that, those of you who have connected into your intuition with yourself as well. And that's where it all starts, doesn't it? It all starts with being able to feel from the inside and to recognize, I'm feeling a bit sad or depressed, or during your cycle for women, you're feeling, oh, okay, I can feel that coming on. I'm going to be more gentle with myself. And what do I do? What do I need to do to nurture myself? And we can sense that with other beings as well, because we have this innate connection with one another. So that is the perfect vehicle for something and someone with a nefarious or malevolent intention to access in order to infiltrate our psyche and our collective consciousness as well, in order to continue and to try to manipulate and keep controlling us and driving us in the direction that they want to drive us into. So when the whole transmission of these jabs started coming out and people were talking about it, and I've done quite a few interviews with a few very well-known doctors as well, which you can find on my channel here too, if you wish to watch those, lots of different perspectives. And it always just felt, it didn't feel right to me. And I'm not a doctor, and being transparent there, I've done a lot of research. I'm nowhere near a doctor, of course, but I understand a lot about the human body and through the energetic and the yogic work that I've done for 25 years. So, and I do a lot of research. It's just who I am, a bit of a nerd with anatomy and physiology. I love knowing those things. And saying that too, I'm more than happy to put my hand up and say, oh, I got that wrong, or yeah, I didn't know that, and go and evolve myself and expand myself so I can keep up to date with things. But it never felt, just like the C19 thing did in the beginning when that was announced, my whole body just went, that was a no. I just instantly went, yeah, no, it just doesn't feel right to me at all on an energetic level, on any level at all. And the same with this idea that we are transmitting something physically. Because if, again, you go back to foundations around pathogens, that they and if you go through the germ theory, of course, or you don't, then the body is not actually receiving or picking up or being infected by something. It's the one or several of the detoxification systems that we have as these incredible organic God source created beings to expel toxicity and debris when it doesn't serve us. So obviously through the skin and the large intestine, the colon, the lungs, the liver, etc., we've got these organs and these bands of organs that work together that help to identify when toxins are in our system and then to excrete them and get rid of them. And that is when we have these symptoms where we're sweaty and we're snotty and we're achy and fluey and all those sorts of things. So I'll leave that up to you to go and do your own research around that and see how that feels for you, of course. But for me, this resonates with me, and which is why I wanted to share it, because I'm sure, I know there's other people out there that are thinking this, and I just wanted to get this out there so we can start having a conversation about it at least, because I'm not saying I'm right or anyone else is wrong. We're all of our opinions and all of our beliefs and experiences are valid, and having these conversations is so important. We don't censor ourselves or one another inadvertently by going, oh, well, that just couldn't possibly happen, until we actually investigate that, if that feels right for you, of course, as well. So it feels to me, knowing what I have learned and also practiced, not occultic stuff, but I've been involved in spellcraft and witchcraft, and I've learned those earth-based practices and the shamanic earth-based practices for years as well, and connected to the moon and all those things, and come in and out of that process, and have my own journey with that. So I understand a lot about how those systems work and how to conjure and how rituals work. And it's basically like it's a recipe. You need to have certain things in alignment, which is why they use the particular dates and the solstices like today, and the eclipses and other times that are marked on the calendar as well, for their potency that they can offer and portals that they can open up with that. So by that, with that understanding, then it's not so much of a stretch for the mind to go, okay, well, if everything is frequency and the intention that they've created, obviously to deteriorate the human, can be infused into not just a pathogen, but also into a jab, then perhaps that is what is excreting from somebody's physical body, because it's moved through the different layers of their auric field. This will depend to different degrees on how much personal spiritual work people have done on themselves, of course. Because I'm not saying everyone's immune, but some of those of us who have done and will continue to do a lot of personal work and keep our fields really strong will have less propensity to receive these things and to be affected by these things. But the majority of people, again, have been bombarded with, sprays from the air and pollutants in the food and the water as well, and medications and all those sorts of things, as well as emotional and mental traumas too, plus all the spiritual stuff that they've brought in. So the majority of people on the planet, safe to say, a bit of an assumption, but safe to say that most people are carrying quite a high degree of toxicity in their systems on those different levels. So they're going to be more susceptible and vulnerable to some other sort of pathogen coming in and affecting them. Now, I have also seen with people who have taken the you know what in the arm, I've seen their energetic shift, and I've seen it right there in front of me. And I've known these people for a while, and I've seen them after 1 and 2 of these jabs. And energetically, I've treated a few people with this too. And there is no doubt in my mind and my heart, and I know there are a lot of other spiritual people out there too feeling in this, and hopefully we'll talk more about this, that we can see most definitely that their energetic fields have been fragmented, that they're being attacked and targeted. And that will express itself in many different ways for different people, of course. And it's essentially, again, coming back to the darkness and the light. The darkness wants to separate the human from their birthright, which is being a soul conscious being, a sovereign conscious being, and remove the spiritual aspect of the human, because then therefore they're more easily manipulated. That's essentially what's going on from that higher plane of awareness. So the best way to do that is to obviously separate the human from their consciousness. And that is what these jabs, I believe, are doing. And yes, there are a plethora of revolting, cocktail of horrible chemicals and things in them, ranging from all sorts of, pathogens that we shouldn't even have anywhere near our bodies, as well as, aborted fetal cells and all sorts of other things that many actual doctors have been talking about, and nurses as well, and saying that this is horrendous. But aside from that, your body's obviously going to have a physiological response to those things, but the energetics that are woven into what these little concoctions in bottles being injected into us have and contain as well, that's where the potency is. Because again, as frequency beings, as everybody feeling and being empathic and connecting with one another unconsciously and physically and energetically with one another, that is what we're feeling and sensing and picking up. So perhaps that is more of an explanation, or something to consider at least, as to why those who haven't had the shot in the arm are feeling and responding and having these horrible side effects as well. Certainly, women are having, as we know, bleeding and postmenopausal, starting their cycles again, and all sorts of women miscarrying, horrendous things that are happening. Men are being affected as well, but particularly the women. Now, the evil forces that I mentioned before, they want to destroy the feminine, the divine feminine, that they want to destroy and pollute the womb, the cosmic organic womb, so then they can therefore take it over and control that. And I've watched so many different documentaries and videos and read so many articles from doctors talking about this now, is that these jabs have been proven now to land in particular, or settle in the ovaries and also in the bone marrow, which is really concerning for so many different reasons. But particularly when you think about and that people are having these horrendous symptoms with their cycles, their menstrual cycles, and the blood. And I'll talk about the bloodlines in another video, I think, because that's a whole different story altogether. And we need to devote enough time to go into that in enough depth that it deserves. But certainly the placenta and the womb and the divine feminine, the ovaries, and everything to do with the feminine cycle is being attacked and targeted. And that is really interesting to me, because that is what I have actually noticed in those people, the women that I have seen who have had the jab. Okay, I've actually seen their womb energy just like shrinking up, dehydrating, essentially, deteriorating. The layers of their auric field as well becoming fragmented, so the information can't move as freely through those different layers of self, and that obviously is going to interfere with our ability to sense and to feel ourselves, our own emotions, and to discern and to be grounded, and all those things that we're desperately needing to do right now. And it's also been affecting and removing the consciousness of the human through the connection of I call it the umbilical cord. Some people call it the silver cord, whatever. I just use the analogy of umbilicus. So I've seen the soul vibration separated out of the actual human's auric field. And this is, I have no doubt that this is a big part of what these forces, these negative forces, are actually trying to create, is by separating our consciousness, our spiritual self, from our human physical body. Therefore, they make us we're more easily pliable and able to be controlled and more compliant essentially as well. So that's super, super concerning. And they're doing this through frequency. So I want to share that today to see what sort of, if anybody else is out there is feeling this, is picking up on this, that wants to continue this conversation around this, because this is not, this is a spiritual battle. This is not just a 3D experience that we're all moving through. Some people are going to go to what we will see, who are a little bit more aware, horrendous experiences, but that's their choice in this lifetime. Those of us who are able to see things and who are willing to step up and speak about it, and are also moving through our own process of learning and discovering and understanding more about as much as we possibly can as humans as well, with the limited brain capacity that we have so far. I think it's really important to speak about this. And as I said before, there is so many basics of spirituality 101, that we need to keep reminding ourselves to come back to, especially when the fear energy comes up, because that will pull us straight out of our heart and out of our truth and out of our trust in our sovereignty, and also in God's source and in this whole process which we are co-creating together. So I really want to just mention that today and see, I'd love to see if you've got any comments. I'll write a little bit more about this. You can find me on my Facebook page, Denby, and also on Instagram. And my website is denbyshida.com, where I'll put lots of blogs and information about these things up. So I'd love to hear your comments, and I'll do another video as well, as I said, about the bloodlines, the timelines, and expand on this a little bit more. But I think it's really important to really understand what frequency actually is, how it works, and how it's hard to put yourself and your brain in the space of a psychopath, obviously, but in order to understand what their intentions are, aside from all the 3D stuff that they do in plain sight, as far as on their websites and through the various structures, as you know, mainstream media and government mandates and all those sorts of things, that's all very 3D manifestations of, you know, the other side, the backside, if you like, of what is driving these experiences and moving us in a very different direction, separating us and creating this duality, perpetuating the duality. Important to remember too that, you know, we are as individual beings of the one sovereign soul and the one universal vibration. Now, we're not God, but we are of God. We have all of that frequency and that potential and ability within us to wield and to express and to explore and to embody, most definitely. So if anything doesn't feel right to you, and it's not a definite yes in the cells of your body and your heart, then you need to honor that. And even if you're, and it's not about pro-vax and not vax and all those sorts of things, these anti this and that, and even the whole concept of racism and separation and duality on the 3D human level, they're all constructs that have been deliberately created or manifested, engineered to drive humanity, a wedge between humanity, and to keep us separate. Allow for all the different opinions, allow for the discussions, allow for yourself to sit in the uncomfortableness of things, allow yourself not to know, allow yourself to be wrong as well, and to be humble enough and willing enough to just go, okay, well, explain that to me or point me in the right direction so I can go and figure that out for myself. Because we're not here to, we're here to stand together and hold the line strong, but we're not here to save one another either. Really important that we reach our own conclusions and understandings through our own process of stepping up into, again, in alignment with what we've chosen in this lifetime to do and to embody, and support one another in that, and have loving allowance for that as well. But yeah, I just wanted to share that today, and hopefully I haven't rambled on too much. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. And again, you can reach out, and I do private sessions, and I'm doing online workshops and seminars, and of course this channel. And you can also find me on BitChute if any of my videos suddenly go missing. This one may as well. You can always reach me through denbyshida.com. Sending you all lots of love. Have a beautiful solstice. Bye.